Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Zahra Salsabila Amanda, a college student from Universitas Negeri Padang. My students numbers is 23018056. So in this presentation video, I would like to present about the introductions to educational research. And then before we move to the main material, I want to tell you about the table of the contents. So there are three things that I'm gonna present. First is functional educational research, and the second is types of educational research, and then the last is differences of educational research types. And then let's move to the first material is about functions. So in function there are some types. I'm gonna explain the function of some types of research. For the first is basic research. So basic research is a type of research aimed to understanding concepts, theories, or principle without immediate focus on real-world applications. So this basic research have several functions. First is to develop and enhance theories in particular field. So this basic research helps create new theories or improve existing ones by exploring fundamental concepts. And the second function is to explain phenomena or process in depth. So it seeks to understand how and why things happen, and it's providing deeper insight into various subjects. And then the next function is serves as a foundations for applied research. So the knowledge gained lays the groundwork for future studies that focus on real-world applications. And then the last function is while not immediately practical, its findings can be useful in the long run. So over time, the discoveries from basic research contribute to advancements in practical fields like teaching and learning. And next is we're gonna talk about the examples of basic research. So I have two examples in here. First is I take from a journal. The title is Self-Regulated Learning Skills of Pre-Service English Language Teachers. So this study focuses on an in-depth understanding of the self-regulated learning skills of English teachers who are still in training without directly applying certain methods to improve their skills. So that's why that title become the basic research. And then the second example is Piaget's research on children's cognitive development. So this research understanding how children think and learns as they grow older. So he observed how children learn, solve problems, and understand concepts. As a result, he found that cognitive development occurs in certain stages. So his theory was later used in education, for example, to adjust teaching methods according to the child's age. And for the next slide, we're gonna talk about applied research. So here's applied research is a type of research that aimed at applying and testing theories in real-life situations to find solutions to practical problems. And so in educations, applied research is used to test teaching methods, learning strategies, and or educational policies to determine their effectiveness improving learning outcomes. So also applied research have several functions. First is to test theories in real-world settings. So it ensures that theories developed from basic research can be effectively applied in practice. And then the second function is to provide data to support, guide, or refute theories. So it helps refine theories if they do not work as expected in real applications. And then next function of applied research is to solve current educational problems. So it addresses challenges in education, such as improving teaching effectiveness or increasing student motivation. And then the last function of applied research is to determine what works and what doesn't. So identifies which methods or strategies are truly effective in real-world educational settings. So we can take a conclusion in here that applied research focuses on using theories to solve real-world problems, particularly in education, with the goal of improving teaching effectiveness and learning quality. And we move to the example of applied research. So I also have two examples in here, and the first one is from the journal. The title is the correlations between total quality management with teacher performance in special education. So this research examining the relationship between total quality management, or TQM, and teacher performance in special education. So the goal is to find solution in improving the quality of teaching. So that's why this research become applied research. And also the second example is applications of Piaget's theory in educational curriculum. So after Piaget's cognitive development theory was discovered, research was conducted to test whether the teaching method based on the stages of child development was truly effective in the classroom. And then in the next slide, we're gonna talk about evolutionary research. So here, evolutionary research is a type of research that aims to assess the quality, effectiveness, or failure of a program, product, or practice in education. So this research focus is not on developing a new theories, but on helping decision making regarding the effectiveness of a policy or method. So also I have some functions. The first is to assess the effectiveness of programs, products, or educational practice. So it ensures whether a method or policy truly works in achieving its goals. And then the second function is to help decision making. So it's provide data used to determine whether a program should continue, be modified, or be discontinued. And then the next function is to conduct monitoring and improvement. So it oversees the progress of a program while it's still running and provide feedback for improvement. And then the last function is to determine the overall impact. So it evaluates the final results of a program to measure its success or failure. And then in evolutionary research, I have some types that is formative and summative. So formative evaluation is a type of evaluation research that conduct while a program, product, or practice is still ongoing. So the goal is to monitor progress and provide feedback so the improvements can be made before the program is completed. So for the summative evaluations, is an evaluational research that conducted after a program, a product, or a practice has been completed. So the goal is to assess the overall impact and determine whether the program was successful or not. And then for the example, I have one example in here that also I take it from the journal. The title is the correlation between total quality management with teacher performance in special education. So This is actually a summative evaluation because it assesses the relationships between total quality management and the teacher performance in special educations. And then the goal is to evaluate whether the quality management strategy has a positive impact to teacher performance or not. So in conclusion, we can take a conclusion in here that evaluation research is used to assess the effectiveness of a program or policy in education and supports decision making based on the data obtained. And then formative evaluation is for making improvements while program is running, and while summative evaluation is to measure the overall outcome after the program is completed. And then the next slide is about action research. So action research is a type of research that uses scientific methods to investigate local problems or issues, particularly in the field of education. So it's conducted by teachers for teachers as a way to systematically investigate and improve their own teaching practice. Unlike basic or applied research, which may focus on broader theoretical or large-scale educational issues, action research is practical, immediate, and context-specific. And then for the function, the first function is to improving teaching practice. So action research help teachers identify weakness in their instructional methods and develop strategies to enhance students' learning by systematically testing and refining new teaching techniques, and educators can improve their effectiveness in the classrooms. And then the second function is to solving classroom-specific problems. So action research allows teachers to address specific challenges in their classroom than relying on the general educational theories. Since every class is unique, teachers can tailor solutions to their students' needs. And then the next function is to encouraging professional growth for educators. So by engaging in action research, teachers continuously learn and adapt, making them more effective educators. So it promotes lifelong learning and professional development by fostering reflections on teaching practice. And the next function is to enhancing students' engagement and learning outcomes. So action research can help educators test strategies to boost students' engagement, participation, and academic success. So it ensures that teaching methods are aligned with students' needs. And then the last function of action research is permitting evidence-based decision making. So instead of relying on intuitions or assumptions, action research use data to support educational decisions. So teachers collect data and analyze evidence before implementing or modifying a strategy. And then I have one example in here. The title of the journal is to using interactive storytelling to improve English speaking skills in primary school students. So the title is action research because it addresses a real classroom problem. That is students' lack of confidence in speaking English, and applies a systematic approach, that is interactive storytelling, to improve it. So the teachers implements the strategy, collects data on student progress, and evaluates its effectiveness. So if needed, the approach is revised for better results. And then this aligns with action research as it involves planning, acting, observing, and refining within a real educational setting. And then that's all for the example. And then the next is the stages of action research. So action research actually have some stages, 5 key steps. First is identify the problem. So in here the teachers recognize an issue affecting student learning or classroom effectiveness. For example, like a teacher noticed that students struggle with vocabulary retentions in English classes. And then the second stage is to develop a plan. So this is a strategy designed to address the problem, often based on prior experience, student feedback, or existing research. So for the example is the teacher decide to integrate Quizlet, an online flashcard tool to help students improve vocabulary retentions. And then the next stages is act or implement the plan. So the new strategy or interventions is applied in the classroom setting. For example, like over a semester, students use a Quizlet daily to practice vocabulary. And then the next stages is observe, collect, and analyze data. So the teachers gather data through student assessment, classroom observation, or feedback. And then the last stages is reflect, evaluate, and revise. So the teacher analyzes the results, reflects on whether the interventions was successful, and adjust the approach if needed. And then the next slide, we're gonna talk about types of educational research. So the first type is quantitative research methodologies. So quantitative research are scientific studies that collect data and report the data in terms of numbers. And then also in quantitative research there are also have a types in it. Like first is experimental, and there in experimental itself there are type 2, there is two experimental, quasi-experimental, and pre-experimental. And then for quasi and pre is used when you are writing a thesis. And then the next types of quantitative is single case. Usually use some method like AB designs, multiple baseline, multiple probe, and changing criterion, and also multi-elements. And then the last type of quantitative is non-experimental. There are some type 2 in non-experimental, that is descriptive, that describing situation right now or how it exists. And also there is correlational, it's find relationship between variables. And then survey, it collects data from many people. Causal, and then the last is causal comparative, is expose fact. And then for the next type is qualitative research methodologies. So qualitative research methodologies is scientific studies that creating narrative and understanding social situations. So there's two types in qualitative, that is interactive and non-interactive. In interactive there are ethnography that studies cultures, and there are phenomenological that studies personal experience, and case study that focus on one specific case, and grounded theory that develop theories from observations. And in non-interactive research there are historical that studies past event, and critical analysis that evaluates texts or ideas deeply. And then for the last slide, we're gonna talk about differences of quantitative and qualitative research methodologies. So in here we can see some differences. The first one is the approaches, where quantitative is use a deductive or top-down method. It starts with a theory, then collects data to confirm it, while qualitative is use an inductive or bottom-up method that starts with observations and patterns, then develop a theory. And then we can see the next is the differences is from the purpose. So quantitative is focused on testing theories, making predictions, and finding facts, while qualitative is aimed to describe realities, understand human experiences, and explore perspective. And the next differences we can see from the research focus. The quantitative is used large samples, isolated variables, and often keeps participants anonymous. And then data is collected using tests and formal tools. While qualitative examines the whole context, interacts directly with participants, and collects face-to-face data. And then the next differences we can see from the research plan, where quantitative planned before the study starts, follow as a structured format, where qualitative is flexible, start with an idea that evolve as the researchers learns more. And the last differences we can see it from data analysis, that's quantitative use numbers and statistic, and for the qualitative they use words, descriptions, and narrative instead of numbers. So in simple terms we can say that quantitative research is like a measuring things with numbers, while qualitative research is like telling a story to understand the deeper meaning behind an issue. So both methods help improve prediction in different ways. So I think that's all for me. So thank you for the attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.